Alright, so I'm going to model for you guys how we take notes for functional text like this with instructions or like recipes or something. So that when students have to do it on their own, they're able to. So this is going to be my line paper. I just wanted to have some lines. They would be using notebook paper. I just needed some space so that I could show you how to do it on here. So our first step is to always write the title. And the students are good at this part. This one doesn't have a like distinct title, but I'm just going to put spring play costumes since that's what they're going to be making. And then we're going to go ahead, and read the functional text of Fur Craft. So it says Miss Little read these directions to her third grade class. She told them that today they would be making spring costumes. She told them they would work together in their table groups. Each group's job is to create spring costumes to wear at the play. So if we look at it, it has a little picture, has the date of the play. So Friday, April 4th is a spring play. And it says directions for spring play costumes. Each table would create a flower costume. One student from each team will be chosen to wear the costume in the play. Flower costume. Use bright colored flowers and glue them to the hat using a hot glue gun. Make sure the flowers cover the whole hat. This will go on the student's head to be the top of the flower. Get a large plastic flower pot and make a large hole in the bottom of the pot. This is where the student's legs will go. On a pink long sleeve shirt, cover the shirt with the rest of the flowers. Slip legs through the holes in the pot, then put the flowery shirt and hat on. The flower costume is now complete. The play. The day before the play, bring the costume to the changing room behind the stage. At 3:30, before the play starts, each table group will help the student that picked to dress like a flower for the play to get in their costume. Play begins at 4 p.m. So that's the whole entire passage. Sometimes you might want to check because occasionally there are 2 pages, but there's not. There's just our questions list we're going to go through next. So when we have a functional text, it's always going to be nonfiction. Even though this is not our play, it could be a true play that someone made in 3rd grade. And then author's purpose. The students put AP for author's purpose. And the author's purpose here would be to teach us how to make a spring play costume. So the author's purpose is just what we're learning in the passage. So for functional text, it's going to be whatever they're teaching us or whatever information they're giving us. It does vary between different kinds of text, but for functional text, it's always going to be what they're teaching us or what they're giving us information about. So now that we have this part done, I'm going to go ahead and do each section. So we have the directions. So instead of doing paragraphs here, since it's not paragraphs like we usually do, I'm going to go ahead and put the first header. Directions for spring play costumes. So that's our first header, and now I'm just going to put my notes under it. So it says each table will create a flower costume. One student from each table will be chosen to wear the costume in the play. So we don't want to copy this word for word. We want to go ahead and put it in our own words. So each, let's see, each group makes a costume and only one person will wear it. So for this section, all I did was take these 2 bullets and change it into each group makes a costume and only one person will wear it. This will help with not only myself, but the students comprehending what they're reading, and it helps me know how they're comprehending what they're reading. So even if we're in person, we do these notes and I review them to make sure that they're understanding what they're reading. So now we're going to go to the second section. It says flower costume. So I'm going to skip a line because I don't want them to bleed together and me get all confused. So I'm going to put my next header, which was flower costume. And for this, there's actually steps. So I'm going to do each step. They're not numbered here, but I know this is the first step. This is the second, the third, the fourth, and the fifth. So usually we do paragraph 1, but since it's steps, we're going to put S1 for step. Then I'm just going to read the step 1 and put it in my own words. It doesn't have to be long, as long as you know what it's talking about. So use bright colored flowers and glue them to a hat using a hot glue gun. Make sure the flowers cover the whole hat. This will go on the student's head to make the top of the flower. So just to say something here, something simple here, glue flowers to hat. This will be the top of the flower. So all they're telling us here is to glue the flowers to the hat. I did leave out some minor details like with a hot glue gun or the bright colors, because even during questions I can go look back and see if I need something more specific, but I just want something general right here. I don't need to write in super detail, just the main idea. So now we're going to go to step 2. So step 2 says get a large plastic flower pot and make a large hole in the bottom of the pot. This is where the students will go. So cut hole in the bottom of flower pot. So I'm going to cut a hole in the bottom of the flower pot. Step 3. Remember, your students' notes don't have to be the same as mine, because they might think something else is a little bit more important, which is fine. They could be longer, they can be shorter, as long as they're not word for word. So we've done step 1, step 2, and then now we're on step 3. On a pink long sleeve shirt, cover the rest of the shirt, or cover the shirt with the rest of the flowers. So cover shirt with flowers. All right. Now we're on step 4. Slip legs through the hole in the pot. Then put the flowery shirt on and the hat on. So now I'm gonna put on costume. If I need to know exactly how to put it on, I can look back, but I just know in step 4 they're going to be putting on costumes. So step 5, costume is done. So now I have my notes for my steps, and I have one more section, the play. So I'm going to put my header, the play, and right here it just says, let's see, the day before the play, bring the costume to the changing room behind the stage. At 3:30, before the play starts, each table will help the students that they pick dress in the flower costume. Play begins at 4. So have costume ready, help student put it on, and play is at 4. So I made all that into one short little sentence. So that sums up this whole entire instruction. So it only took me a page to fill it in. And you could include the date if you want. So if you wanted to put the date of play, you could. Friday, April 4th. If you want to include that, you can. So on our next page for notes, we are going to go ahead and look at the questions. Oops. And I'll take my notes on this side. Sorry for the confusion. All right. So now that we have our notes, we're going to look at our questions. So we only have 6 questions here. So when you're doing your questions, your students should know that we are going to do Q1 for question 1. Then we're going to read our questions. So these directions are mostly about how to A, prepare for a school play, choose a student to be in a play, make different types of costumes, act in a play. So I want to go through these and decide which one I think it could be. And some students like to do slash the trash or maybe put a dot next to it so they can think about it. So let's see, prepare for a school play, maybe because they are making a costume for a school play. Choose a student in a play. No, it does talk about choosing one, but that's not the whole entire passage. Make different kinds of costumes. We only learned how to make one costume. And then act in a play. It does not tell us how to act in a play. So we know it's going to be A, and we can go back and look at our passage to find out how we know that. So it's prepare for a school play, and we can just look at the top paragraph, and it just says Miss Little is giving them directions on how to make their costumes. So we're going to go over here for question 1, we're going to put A, and then for our justification, we can put the whole passage. So that way we know this whole passage is teaching us about the preparing for a school play. Then we go to question 2. The main reason to read the direction is to learn how to create a play, learn how to create a costume for a play, learn how to act in a play, learn how to get changed into a costume. So let's go ahead and look at these. So the main reason to read these directions. So when we read the directions, did we learn how to create a play? No, we didn't. Did we learn how to create a costume? Maybe. Did we learn how to act in a play? Nope. Did we learn how to change into a costume? We did. But what was the main reason for this passage? So if we go back and look at it, what were all our notes about? Was it about getting into the costume or was it about creating the costume? So if we look at this, it does tell us to get into the costume, but a majority, so most of this is to teach us how to make a costume. Even our author's purpose was how to make a spring costume. So since most of our passage was that, we're going to go ahead and put B. And then our justification would be gives directions to make a costume. Then we're going to go to question 3. Who will most likely watch the play? So this one is one where we have to inference. So we have to think about it and use our prior knowledge about plays and who we think will watch it. So if we're looking at this play, who do you think is going to watch it? People who make the costumes? Well, if they make the costumes, they're going to be in the play probably, so they can't watch it. People from church? Some people would say maybe, but since this is a school play, since it was Miss Little's 3rd grade class, I would think probably not. Students, teachers, and parents, that's a maybe, right? Because when you have a school play or a school music program, the students come, the teachers come, and the parents come, right? Only the school principal. So they're going to have this whole play for the school principal only? I don't think that's going to be right. So you guys would pick C. And we would put C, and all we have to put over here is an I for inference. Since we made an inference, we used our prior knowledge because we've been in school plays before, we've been in music programs, and we know who comes to those. So we use what we already knew because it doesn't actually state in the passage who's all coming to the play. So now we're going to go to Q4. Which sentence tells how to wear the flower costume? The day before the play, bring the costume to the changing room behind the stage. That doesn't tell us how to wear it. That tells us where to bring it. So we can mark that one off. Slip the legs through the hole in the pot, then put the flower shawl in the hat. Maybe, right? Because that's telling us what to put on. On the pink long sleeve shirt, cover the sleeves with the rest of the flowers. No, that's telling us how to make the costume. Each table group will team and create a flower costume. No, that's telling us how to create it. So now we know it's B. So we're going to come over here. We're going to put B. And then we're just going to tells us how to wear it. It's because justification is more than just putting the answer. I want to know why you picked this answer. So for B, this tells us how to wear the costume. Question 5. What will most likely happen after the students read these directions? So this doesn't tell us, again, this is not going to be in the passage, right? Because when we looked at this passage, it didn't tell us what they were going to do after they read this. We're just going to have to make an inference and decide what they're going to do. So they are performing the play. So let's think about this. After they read the directions, they haven't made the costume yet, so can they perform in the play? No, they have to make the costume first, so we know that can't be it. They'll work in table groups to create the flower costume. Maybe, right? Because we know after you read directions, you usually do what the directions say. They will put on the costume. Well, they have to make the costume before they can put it on. So we can't do that one. They will practice their lines in the play. They didn't tell us anything about them practicing their lines in the play. So we're going to go with B because they read the directions, so their next step after reading the directions would be to actually make the costume. So we're going to come over here. We put B. Whoops. We put B, and just put make costumes, because that's what they're going to do, right? So I know you picked this answer because after they read the directions, they're going to make the costumes. Now we're on our last question, so question 6. Said the flowers for the costume should most likely be bright colors so that, this is another inferencing question, so we have to think about why we want the colors to be bright. It looks cool, maybe. So maybe. It helps the flowers stick better. I don't think the color has to do with anything of why they stick to the shirt. It is easy to see from the stage, maybe, right? Because if you're far away, you can see those bright colors, it'll help. Maybe. It will be different from other flower costumes. We don't know if they're all going to look the same or not. So which one do you think would be the most logical one to pick? Why would you think they would have bright colors? Would it look cool, or do you think if you're sitting far in the stand watching the play, it would probably be easier for the audience to see the flowers that way? Or do you think it just looks cool? I'm going to go with C, because I think it would make it easier. So that's just inferencing. So you have to think a little bit, and then you just put inference. Or you could even put so everyone can see. Whichever one you want. So this is what I expect when the students are doing a test. I expect them to first take notes like this. So they should have the title, if it's fiction or nonfiction, author's purpose, and then they're summarizing of the passage. This is a functional text, so it's a little bit different. I'll do another video with a fiction or nonfiction one so you can see what it looks like with paragraphs. And then after they finish their notes, they go on to the questions and they have justifications like this. So if you have any questions, please let me know. And as always, when we do have these, they're going to do it on notebook paper, and you guys are just going to send me a picture. Please let me know if you have any questions. I hope this helps with what we expect for our test that we have coming up on functional text soon.